In this video, I would like to talk about 5 behavioral patterns that are toxic and hurtful, and how you can protect yourself from them. We do encounter people in our life that do not necessarily treat us in the way we would like to be treated. This is sad, but true. It can be people that are close to you, friends, family, partners. It can be people we are less related to, for example, the boss or colleagues. And it can be even strangers in a shop, on the street, on online dating platforms. Some of those behaviors can be so hurtful that we almost feel the pain on a physical level. And indeed, our brain activates the same areas for physical pain as when we feel emotionally hurt. And as a side note, I would like to mention that this is why mental health is just as important as physical health. Shout out to those people who still believe you just need to get over it. When your leg is broken, you don't just get over it. When your teeth hurt, you don't just get over it. And it's the same with emotional pain. Sometimes you just don't get over it like that. You need time to heal and recover. And you sometimes need help, support, and comfort. Our mind and body are one system. Why wouldn't we treat the whole of us in the best way possible? Okay, but now back to the topic. So when people describe toxic behavior as a slap in the face or a kick in the stomach, then it is quite a matching description for the relationship between brain and pain. So let's talk about 5 hurtful behavioral patterns you most probably experienced in one way or another already in your life. And those are just the classic ones. There are much more, but I stick to 5 in this video. Number 1, insults. When someone insults or offends you, it is directed to your self-worth and your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is intentionally or unintentionally sometimes attacked, and that really hurts. For example, it can happen that everybody except you is invited to that birthday party or after work cocktail. Or when you are fired from your job, ice cold, in minutes, after having spent years or even decades of hard work in that job. Or when your parents prefer your sibling to you and show it in more or less subtle ways that you are just less than. It hurts, doesn't it? And it can last for a long time, especially when the hurt comes from our closest family members or caretakers. The second hurtful behavior is devaluation. Obviously, people who treat others in a devaluing way do that from a position of contempt and perceived superiority. It can go from, look at you, do you really think this dress suits you? Or they are devaluing your skills, your knowledge and capabilities to full-blown contempt for you as a whole person. This can be super hurtful and is often, if not always, to be found in toxic relationships. It can start really subtle in the beginning, and you even might be able to brush it off to a degree because your emotional thinking is in love. But it still feels like a needle in your flesh. So your partner might be name-calling you, criticizing what you are actually proud of, minimizing your strengths, your qualities, and then moving to gaslighting and real passive aggressiveness. Those could be a separate video in and of itself, and who knows, maybe it will be. Anyway, Gaslighting and passive aggressiveness are part of the toolbox and the playground for certain personality types, and it's better for your mental health to stay away from them, if you can. A third unhealthy behavioral pattern is ignorance. This wants to signal that you don't matter. You are not important. You are basically not existing. You are invisible. But beware, this is not necessarily intentional. Most people have experienced ignorance in their life, and it just happened. It wasn't really intentional. It didn't mean anything. Someone was maybe just too busy with something else, or maybe they had their head in the clouds, or simply didn't see you. It can happen to me, especially now with aging and needing different sets of glasses. I don't see as well as I used to. But if it happens intentionally, it's very unpleasant. You might experience it at work, where your opinion is ignored or you are talked over on a regular basis. It can also show as what you want, what you wish, doesn't count. To be ignored can also look like the classic silent treatment, where someone pretends you are not there. They don't react to your attempts of conversation. They don't speak to you. They are silent. They might not even look at you. They just don't acknowledge your existence. You are nothing. Ignorance is also often to be found on dating platforms especially. The new term would then be ghosting. Someone you thought you got along with suddenly disappears into thin air as if he never existed. This can really crush someone's confidence if that happens on a regular basis or a lot. And it can leave that person full of questions like, what did I do wrong? Or even, what is wrong with me? Ghosting can feel super nasty. Number 4 on my list is shaming. There are certainly things in most people's lives they feel ashamed about. We feel we have done the wrong thing. We feel we failed. We feel inferior and ashamed for who we are in our own mind. Some people smell our wounds and insecurities and use them as a weapon against us. They poke their finger where it hurts and then turn the knife. An example for shaming could be about someone who's overweight, going out to eat an ice cream or whatever meal. And this person can feel often shamed by complete strangers who feel the need to share their nasty looks and comments on top in a way that this person can see and hear it. It's awful and it hurts. And of course, parents can shame their child as it grows up, which can have devastating consequences for a person's self-esteem and confidence later in life. When you feel not good enough, not right, when you are shamed for the things you say, you do and feel, signaling how embarrassing you are, this can hurt and scar for life. Number 5 on the list, going hand in hand with shaming, is making someone feel ridiculous. That happened to me a lot at school, coming from one particular teacher and also from classmates. Kids can be really cruel. There were times when going to school felt like running the gauntlet for me. Excuse me. I googled this term, running the gauntlet. I hope I have picked the right translation. Or let's say someone close to you, or not even so close to you, feels the need to make jokes on your costs and signals to others just how ridiculous and embarrassing you are. Funny, not funny. Another example would be to dismiss, discard, or brush aside your feelings. Oh, don't make your sad face. Smile, will ya? Don't feel like this and don't feel like that and just get on with it. It's hurting. And those are just 5 patterns of toxic behavior. There are many more, and I might address those in the future in one way or another. But those 5 are classic ones, and not only in the toolbox of certain personality types. I personally have experienced all of those and more, and I think unfortunately most people have. And there's no way around it, as it can happen to you as you turn the corner on the street. But of course, it hurts the most by people we think we know and we like or love. There will always be people you encounter who hurt with their words or their behavior. Just look at the comment section on social media. It's incredible how people talk to each other. And because there's no way we can be spared, I would like to give you 3 tips for your personal protection. Tip number 1. Become aware of the intention, the motive that person might have for behavior like this. So let's say some stranger ignores you, like mentioned earlier. We can mostly be sure that it wasn't necessarily even intentional at all. Hence, this incident didn't have anything to do with you personally to begin with. And so it's okay, and we can let go of it. In other cases, people have an intention, they have the motive. And if the intention is to minimize someone, to hurt someone deliberately, to downplay something or someone, then it becomes very obvious that this person is the one with a problem. And the problem they mostly have is one with their own self-esteem, their own feelings, their own way of being. Often they need to minimize someone else to feel bigger and better than that person. They need a feeling of superiority to validate themselves. Maybe they feel jealous and envious and are unhappy in their own life. Or maybe they simply lack empathy or emotional intelligence and don't know or don't care what consequences their behavior has for other people. Or they might even have a full-blown personality disorder. Be sure they do have a reason that resides in them, not you. And that is not an excuse for their behavior, but the understanding of the motives and intentions can help you to keep yourself emotionally protected, knowing it's not about you, but about them. Tip number 2, do not blame yourself. When someone sticks a knife into your wound and even turns it around, a part of us might still think, they are right maybe. There must be something wrong with me. And their behavior is somewhat justified because it is in line with what you think about yourself already. Stop this self-gaslighting immediately. We know our inner critic is all too often wide awake, but remind yourself that there is no good reason that would justify nastiness and cruelty. If there's something to be criticized, it still can be done in a kind and constructive way, without insults, without devaluation and embarrassment. You have the right to be angry and hurt, and you can correct your boundaries then and stand your ground. You decide what gets to you and what you don't need to eat. Tip number 3. I have mentioned in the very beginning that emotional pain activates the same regions in the brain as physical pain. So imagine someone does someone does slap you or kick you in the stomach, what would you do? Would you just take it? Or would you defend yourself? Take that on board when someone slaps or kicks you emotionally. You can defend yourself, and you don't need to defend yourself on the same level as the other person attacks you. You know better than that. You can communicate clearly that this behavior is hurting you. And don't accept the gaslighting that tends to often happen as a response in phrases like, "Oh, don't be so sensitive," or "It was just a joke. It is hurting. Period." And you can say that this is the way you feel, and you expect your feelings to be taken into consideration and treated with respect. And you can add what you would prefer instead. And you can talk about consequences if this behavior persists. But be aware, threatening with consequences and not doing anything takes away from your credibility. So be clear for yourself what you are willing to take and what you are going to do. And I still have an extra tip for you. Take an emotional distance to people that are intentionally hurtful, and if possible, take physical distance as well. Nobody has the right to trample on you and over you and treat you like shit. No one has that right. And even if you hesitate because you trample on and over yourself as well and think it is okay when others do it, take this as your alarm bell to improve your own self-esteem and confidence. There's tons of help out there, including myself, that can help you with that. I do work with people on issues of anxiety and self-doubts. I help them to find more peace and ease with themselves so they can live the joy in life they deserve. And by the way, just recently I have added a new program to my usual service. Hey, the Toxic Relationship Antidote, where I am helping men to recover from toxic relationships so they can rebuild their life on their terms. I believe this is a very important topic, and it's close to my heart for a long time. Toxic relationships are extremely damaging and painful to your heart, soul, and all too often also the body. They can destroy people for a long time. And I want to be there for men because they experience those relationships as well. They just do not talk about that openly, unfortunately. And so often they are overlooked for a long time in public discussions about that topic, just because they are men. And everybody assumes they have their shit together. They are strong. I would like to change that. No man needs to go alone through this. And if this can be for your benefit or the benefit of a loved one, drop me an email at christine@happinesscoding.com and I will get in touch. So that's it from me for today. I hope it was useful for you. And if it was, and you like to follow more uploads in the future, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Support this channel by commenting your takeaways and sharing it with people who might find it useful too. Have a lovely day. Bye for now.